Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you guys with us. Let's make sure our stream is strong, going. Looks like it. All right. Well, how was everyone's week? Fast? Good. Okay. Busy. Anything to share? Okay. Well, there you go. Well, let's go ahead and start with prayer. Lord God, Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day. We thank you for some beautiful weather outside. And Lord, even though we got some folks that aren't going to be able to make it today, we ask you to just continue to be with them, guide and protect them, give them health and healing and wholeness. And Lord, for those of us who are here, we pray the same and pray that we not only hear your word, but read, mark, learn, and inwardly digest, and then follow it. In Christ's name. Amen. All right, we are on chapter 2, verse 23. Anyone want to give a summary of what we covered last week? Exodus, oh, well, boy. Don't go into detail or anything. Princess found the baby.
Kept the baby, sent for the mom, unknowingly perhaps, to nurse the baby. Baby gets saved.
Baby gets saved by Pharaoh's daughter.
Was he called Moses out then?
Yeah. Once. Remember the name Moshe in Egyptian means to draw out, and it also the Hebrew Moshesh also means that. So it kind of works in both Egyptian and in Hebrew. He kills a guy, flees for his life. He goes over and engages the priest of Midian, who ends up being his father-in-law, and he's out there, that guy's name is Jethro, mostly known by Jethro, and he's out there right now. It's kind of where we are.
Well, where's the Jethro part?
Jethro actually comes later. It says Jethro is father-in-law, but we hear his name differently in chapter 1. What do we hear? 2. What's
Ruel.
Yes, Ruel. It's the same person. Anything else or any questions that you had from last week?
Oh, and Moses got married, had a baby.
Mm-hmm. He's married, has a kid. Actually, has more than one kid, but learn that later.
Gershom, which meant
Sojourner. All right, 2:23. During those many days, the king of Egypt died, and the people of Israel groaned because of their slavery and cried out for help. Their cry for rescue, for slavery, came up to God. God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. That heard their groaning, that here is the same word, Shema, which we hear in the great Shema in Numbers. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one, which is one of the greatest confessions within Judaism. And in fact, if you are going to have a bar or bat mitzvah, you will know that in Hebrew. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And it's a standard one. And then right after that, in Numbers, it says, it gives the greatest commandment. You are to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and your neighbors yourself. Actually, it doesn't have neighbor yourself. But anyway, that's the same word there, here. He heard their groaning, remembered his covenant, Abraham, Isaac, and with Jacob. God saw the people of Israel, and God knew. That knew is the same yod, or yadah, which is also sometimes used as a euphemism for cardinal knowledge. Adam knew Eve, and those things. But it can mean simply to know as well. Anything there?
God forgotten his covenant before?
Well, that's a question. Yeah. Why does it say and God remembered when, or that and God knew, like he didn't know before? He knew after this. No, it doesn't mean that, of course. He is reminded of, and not that God needs reminding, but it's the cry of his people that he hears. So I would take more away from that the aspect that God hears his people and acts on behalf of them, rather than that God forgets, because he doesn't. The only thing he forgets is our sin. Very good. Yes. Through faith in Jesus, I will remember their sins no more, which is amazing when you consider that one of the qualities of God is omniscience. All right, ready for 3 then? Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian, and he led his flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. All right, let's stop there for a second. Where is Horeb? It's the same mountain as Sinai. It's the same thing. They're synonymous. So where is that? You don't know. You've never been there. Smart Alec. Bottom of the Sinai Peninsula. Yeah. So there is a lot of disagreement on exactly where it might be, but one option that many use is down around here. Interesting. I looked up this area, and it doesn't say Sinai in any, like Google Maps or something, but it does have around the place a cathedral, or not cathedral, but a let's say convent or something. St. Catherine's has a place that's up right around there. So I found that interesting. But if we look at this is approximate area. So if you are looking at this whole area, you're talking quite a distance here. This is a very old. Curious too, isn't it? That very rocky.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a blade of grass in there.
But there are tributaries and some water sources that go through there.
If you look at that map, the green represents anything that's plant-based. That would make sense as to why he brought.
Yeah, so maybe they were doing around here, and he saw. Yeah, but you're talking a long distance here from where they were. Way down here.
What is that considered today?
Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
Mine says he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness.
Where is Jerusalem in reference to this area?
Way up here.
That's what I was thinking, southwest.
Right about here. I don't know if you can see my hand there. There. Yeah, Egypt is way over here. So I mean, you're talking a lot of space, a lot of land. This is what's the scale here? Okay, 50 miles. So 650, 700 miles maybe from Egypt down to there. I mean, considerable.
Well, he is trying to stay out of trouble.
Maybe not that far, but 50, 1, 2, 3, maybe 400. Yeah, he's trying to stay out of trouble, and this does put some distance between them.
It's over 200 miles from the Mediterranean down to the tip of the.
Over 200 miles, yeah. So okay, if you added another, 50 or 100 or something to over to around here. All right, so Horeb, the mountain of God. The first time we hear about God having a mountain.
Yeah, and what made it God's mountain?
What made it God's mountain? God. Yeah. His choice. His prerogative. He wanted it. He got it.
But aren't all mountains his?
Well, of course, all things are His. But this was something special. This was something that He he consecrated for his own use and his own benefit. All right. And the angel of Yahweh appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. Again, with the angel of Yahweh. He looked, and behold, the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed. Moses said, "Hey, I'll turn aside and see this great sight, why this bush is not burned." When Yahweh saw that he turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush. So again, here we have kind of a direct reference that the angel of Yahweh is God. I mean, it says the angel of the Lord said, and God saw. You know, so you're seeing some connection here. And you'll see it look again here in just a minute when he says he didn't want to look on his face. God called to him out of the bush, "Moses, Moses." He said, "Here I am." I think I probably would have said a couple of other things, probably non-holy things first, you know, that there's a voice coming out of this burning bush, you know, but here I am. "Do not come near. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground." He said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. All right, I'm going to back up here for 1 second. This verse, oh yeah, okay, verse 6. "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob." If we look, someone want to look at Mark 12. Look at Mark 12. We've referenced this one before, Mark 12:18, but this story. "The Sadducees came to Jesus who say that there is no resurrection, and they ask him a question, saying, 'Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies, leaves a wife, but leaves no child, the man must take his widow and raise up offspring for his brother. There were 7 brothers. First took a wife. When he died, no offspring. Second took her, died, leaving no offspring. Third likewise, and the 7 left no offspring. Last of all, the woman also died. In the resurrection, when they rise again, whose wife will she be? For the 7 have had her as wife.' Jesus said to them, Is this not the reason you are wrong, because you know neither the Scriptures nor the power of God? For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. As for the dead being raised, have you not read in the book of Moses," referencing directly this verse, in the passage about the burning bush, how God spoke to him, saying, "I am the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob." Not the God of the dead, but the God of the living. You are quite wrong. So he's saying, it's not, "I was the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and Jacob." They're gone. I am. They still exist. They're still around. I am still their God. So Jesus is using as proof of the resurrection the fact that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are still alive, and he's still their God. And it's referencing this all the way back in the words. Incidentally, this is also one of those passages that shows the authorship of Exodus as Moses, right? Because it's not just someone writing about this. It's Jesus endorsing that this is written by Moses. Anything else? Okay.
The reference in mine to take off your sandals
Mm-hmm.
said that in Eastern culture, feet are especially associated with uncleanness, which can lead to shame.
Yeah. Well, what part of your body is going to get the dirtiest? Yeah, your feet. You're walking around in the dust and stuff all the time. You know, they didn't have good boots like we have now. All right, verse 7. Then Yahweh said, "I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters. I know their sufferings, and I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, to bring them up out of that land into a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey." Now, pause there for just 1 second. What is God saying? I come down. I'm coming down to deliver them. What is that reminiscent of? Christ. It's an incarnational statement. You know, that we can't reach God, so God has to come to us.
Incarnational statement.
Yeah.
Did you make that word up? Or
No, incarnational is a word. Not that theologians don't make up words, but I don't think that's one of them. Okay, I'm going to come down and deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, to bring them up out of the land, to a land that is good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now behold, the cry of the people of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression which the Egyptians oppress them. Come, I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. All right, anything there before we go on?
Yeah, it occurs to me, God does like drama.
God likes drama. Okay, all right.
He could have come down and just zapped the Egyptians.
Yeah.
And they could have just all picked up. But he's got to go through this whole, we know what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty dramatic. So
He does make a show of things.
yeah, he's going
Yes.
to make a statement.
He makes a statement, yes. Yes. And what's some of the purpose of that? We need to learn, yeah. If everything's just given to you, yeah, you might consider something of yourself. If you're actually, experience is a great teacher. Can be, yeah.
But wouldn't it have been also a pretty emphatic statement if he'd have just killed all the firstborn of the Egyptians to start with?
Well, let's take a look at that. If you have cancer and God brings you through cancer, do you have more of a belief of God doing that than if you see someone else has cancer and you see God brought them through? Personal experience of something is vastly more powerful as a statement. Testimony is great, but personal testimony, you know, that this is me, my testimony, as opposed to just hearing. It's, you know, I mean, it's the same thing. If, you know, your parents can tell you anything, you know, your friends can tell you anything, you may not believe them. You have to kind of experience some of the same problems and same lessons yourself.
I remember the part about not believing your parents.
Yes, as my grandparents told me about you.
It's another example too that you're talking about. You know, the angel spoke before at the bush, and
Uh-huh.
then God spoke. It's how God uses different beings for
For his purpose. Yeah, God uses people.
He uses
Yeah.
He's using Moses now. So okay, Moses, I'm using you to do this. You know?
Yeah, because God doesn't need us, but he chooses to use us.
And for example, for human beings on earth to see.
Yeah. So this was an example to the Egyptians. It was also an example to the Israelites. The God that you have is a powerful God, and I do what I say. Yeah, I think that there is something that he prepared Moses through both cultures specifically for this job. Yeah.
I think, how would you feel that God kind of used those? You had to do something big like that.
Well, probably the same way that he feels, as we're going to see here in just a minute. But the bigger thing is do you know how old Moses is right now? 80. Okay, so Moses, how long did Moses live? 120. The first 40 years of his life was in Egypt. When he killed the guy and he fled, he was about 40. So 40 years in Egypt, 40 years in the wilderness, and then God calls him, and then 40 years back in the wilderness, you know, leading people. So, you know, Vic, you're near 80, right? You're around 80, right? You want You want to lead over 1 million plus people out of slavery? This is, yeah. Oy, oy, oy.
I got a bad back. My feet hurt.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's understandable that Moses is going to come back and say, I don't think I'm the right one for the job here.
But it's interesting, God did not speak to him until it says God saw that he noticed and turned aside.
Yeah, that's an interesting statement. You know, God saw that he turned aside. Of course, I think God might have been trying to get his attention with a burning bush
Well,
and knew that he was going to be walking there.
But obviously, that's the case, but it never struck me before. God didn't speak to him until Moses took notice.
Yeah, well, and it brings a question. Was that burning bush there all the time? And now Moses just now realized it and turned aside? I don't know. Aha! I don't think we've read that yet.
Yeah.
Oh, did we? Okay, all right. He was afraid to look at God. Where verse was that?
Well, that's not an unusual reaction.
No, it's not. In fact, that's a very specific reaction that we see all throughout Scripture, right? Because the idea was, and it was not dispelled by God, that you cannot look on my face and live. And he said that, to Elijah. He said, I mean, this was a common thing. You can look at my back, but you can't look at me and live. And the beautiful theological reality is that in Jesus, we do look on the face of God and live. Quite literally. In looking on the face of Jesus, we live. How cool. All right. Verse 11. Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt?" He said, "I will be with you, and this shall be a sign for you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain." Now, I always find, some of the proofs that God gives, as if he were trying to tell me that, I'd probably find it less than convincing, because he's giving some future thing on why you should believe me now, right? Instead of, this is a sign for you that this is me and this is what you're to do, bam, something happens and oh, okay. No, you have to trust that sometime in the future you're going to worship me again, and that's going to be your sign to trust me now.
Well, there's a lesson in there for us.
And what lesson is that?
We want proof of things, and it's like, I'm sorry, that's called faith.
Yeah.
We need to do it.
Yeah. Faith is being sure of what you hope for and certain of what you do not see, right? If Greeks demand signs and other wisdom, but sorry, that's, yeah. If you can prove it, it's not faith. You either trust me or you don't. Then Moses, 13. Moses said to God, "If I come to the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them?" I mean, can you see some of the exasperation just in Moses? Okay, so I'm going to go to them, and I'm going to tell them that God sent me. Who are you? What am I supposed to say? And then of course, this is one of the quintessential verses, which is, say to them, God said to Moses, "I am who I am. Aha asher aha. Aya asher aya." Now, that statement, aya, can also mean I will be who I will be. It is a to be verb. It is the to be verb, and it doesn't have that tense that we have. So there are some who would be calling me now. No, I'm sorry. So there are some that say that this has to do, because you connect it to Yahweh. Ahiyah is similar to Yahweh. Ahiyah, the end part of that, Ahiyah, that gives significance to the fact that Yahweh is himself just being. He is. That's just part of his nature. I think there's something to that. I think we sometimes overblow that aspect, but the fact is that Yahweh and Hayah are linked, and we see that in a minute here too. But I am who I am, or I will be who I will be. Now here's a question. Do you think God said that more as a like, you're asking me the wrong questions? I am who I am. I am God. I'm going to be with you. I promised you all this. Or is he a statement of who he is? And I think it's both. I think some of it's exasperation and some of it is a statement of who he is, because he does mention that later. Where else do we see this I am who I am? Where? Popeye. Not Popeye. Not. Oy
When
vey.
he said,
Well, Jesus,
Now what I was thinking. Jesus, when did Jesus say this? He did. He got in a lot of trouble for saying it. It was blasphemy. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so this is from John 8:48. John 8:48. The Jews answered, are we not right in saying that you are a Samaritan and have a demon? Jesus answered, I do not have a demon, but I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. Yet I do not seek my own glory. There is one who seeks it, and he is the judge. Truly, truly, I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death. Jews said to him, now we know that you have a demon. Abraham died, as did the prophets. Yet you say, if anyone keeps my word, he will never taste death. Are you greater than our father Abraham, who died, and the prophets died? Who do you make yourself out to be? And Jesus answered, if I glorify myself, my glory means nothing. It is my Father who glorifies me, of whom you say he is our God. But you have not known him. I know him. Notice the tense. I know him. It's not I knew him. This is a continual action. I know him. If I were to say that I do not know him, I would be a liar like you. But I do know him, and I keep his word. Your father Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day. He would see. So he's seeing it now. That means he's alive. He saw it and was glad. Jesus says, you're not yet 50 years old, and you've seen Abraham. Jesus said, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. And the Greek is ego eimi. Ego, we get the word egotistical from that. I, and then eimi is the to be verb. I am. He doesn't have to say, I am who I am. They knew exactly what he was referring to. They picked up stones to throw at him, but he hid himself and went out of the temple.
so when he said, Abraham, go back to that verse about Abraham was glad to see.
Rejoice to see he saw it and was glad.
Rejoiced that he would see my day. Does that mean that Abraham is looking down on him and seeing him now as Jesus is?
It could be that, or he saw the pre-incarnate Christ, when he was there with him. Yeah, what exactly that? I don't know. I think it does mean that Abraham sees that the stuff's going on too, but it's a fulfillment.
Earlier in Exodus, God is the God of the living, not of the dead.
Right. Yeah. So they're still around. Now this is an interesting question. Do those who are in heaven, that you get this whole aspect of, oh, they're looking down on us, or I can feel their presence, or stuff like that. No. It also says that we will remember the former things no more. Right? That and I point it like this: if you are in paradise, is looking down upon the things going here really something that paradise would encompass? I don't think so. I think you got better things to do. I think you're enjoying other things without having to worry about what's going on here. This would only bring you down, I think, right? I don't think that that those who are in heaven are concerned about what is happening here. They are trusting that God is already taking care of everything that's happening here. Wait, I saw Mary and Dave. That's true. Okay, yeah. So if we take that, then that would mean that maybe pre-incarnate. Dave?
My only other thought was, from paradise, no, all the garbage that goes on is not important to people who are in paradise. However, this seminal event, Christ coming, that was important.
Yeah, so maybe they witnessed at least that.
That piece possibly could be, because, hey, that is a big deal.
Well, that is possible. Yeah. But as a whole, the whole aspect of someone's looking down on me, so that I could feel their presence. I don't see a lot of scriptural support for that. It's more of a feel-good thing for us.
But in the parable of Lazarus and the rich man,
Mm-hmm.
the rich man knows what's going on with his brothers down there, and they need.
No, he doesn't know what's going on with them. He knew what was going on when he was there. We're not given any idea that he knows currently what their state is. Hey, before Abraham was, I am. All right. Pretty pivotal key moment there. Haya asher haya. And he said, say to this people of Israel, Haya, I am, has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, say to the people of Israel. So he's already said, I am. So this is why I think that some of it might be just like, look, I am. Chill, I said I'd be with you. Because then he gives his proper name, which is Yahweh. So say to the people, I am sent me to you. Then he said, say to the people of Israel, Yahweh, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and thus I am to be remembered throughout all generations. So, God's name, Yahweh. A reference would be I am. The proper name is Yahweh. Go and gather the elders of Israel together and say to them, Yahweh, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, has appeared to me, saying, I have observed you and what has been done to you in Egypt, and I promise that I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, a land flowing with milk and honey. They will listen to your voice, and you and the elders of Israel shall go to the king of Egypt and say to him. All right, now let's pause there for a second. Anything grab you on there? That they will listen to his voice, because it doesn't show that they did much listening. But it also says that the elders and them are supposed to go before Pharaoh. There's no evidence that the elders ever went before Pharaoh. I think they chickened out.
They probably just said, good on you, go ahead and talk to Pharaoh.
Yeah, they'd be on our behalf. Yeah, a little over, but yeah. They didn't have a priesthood, but I don't think a whole lot of their history was forgotten at this point. I mean, to some extent, it might have been more of fuzzy and conceptual, but they certainly knew that they were different and they were separate, and that God had called them through Abraham. They did catch that. All right. Yahweh, the God of Hebrews, has met with us, and now please let us go a 3-day journey into the wilderness that we may sacrifice to Yahweh our God. All right. This is a contentious point. What? What is contentious there?
That's not exactly true.
What part's not true?
Well, we're just going to go a 3-day journey.
Aha.
This is about liberating them.
Yeah, so here's the question. Was God giving a simple thing to test Pharaoh? Look, we're just going to take 3 days. It's not 3 days. It would be a 3-day journey, worship, and come back. So maybe a week or something like that. That's all we're asking for. And he's not even going to do that, and therefore I'll do something greater. Or was it the aspect of a 3-day, let my people go, and we're going to go 3 days at least? But yeah, is it genuine? Did God originally mean that, hey, if Pharaoh had acknowledged just the 3-day journey out, worship, and come back, that would have been enough? Would that have been considered freedom from bondage, to be able to worship God? That's a bigger theological issue in and of itself. Does worship bring freedom? I think even if you look just at that, and some commentaries mention this, that if Pharaoh had allowed that, then he would be acknowledging Yahweh's preeminence over him, and maybe would have changed their circumstances.
But the children of Israel were already practicing some form of religion. Because
Yeah, what form of religion?
Well, when Pharaoh made their work harder, he said, they want time to do their sacrifices. So we're not going to give them any time. We're going to make them gather their own straw and still make as many bricks as before.
Right?
So there was a vestige of, if sacrifice is a worship, there was a vestige of worship going on already.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So there were, I would say, more abstract, fuzzy concepts that would be associated with it. Yeah. And so you see some vestiges of practice without it being codified into law yet. And codified is a word.
I guess the thought that the 3 days of worship, 3 days journey of worship, was the goal. No, because he just stated he's going to give them the land, the Canaanites, the Hittites.
Yeah, but the question, Dave, is if God knew that wasn't going to be enough for Pharaoh, and so he was going to accomplish. But was it the aspect where God says, look, if Pharaoh had just acknowledged this and stuff in the first place, maybe I would accomplish the freedom from bondage another way? I don't know.
Well, the only reason I doubt that is because he's repeatedly said, I'm going to give you this land.
Yes, but when the promise of the land, God never gives the timeline for it, right? Because he had to repeat that how many times with Abraham? How many? He repeats, look, I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to give you this land and stuff like that. And we as people, and the Israelites are no exception, try to take what God promises as summary and as future point of fulfillment as something that is a much closer fulfillment. We don't know exactly. Yeah, he seems that the Pharaoh around Joseph's time had some acknowledgement that God is with you, your God, yeah. Yeah, now if that Pharaoh during Joseph's time, there's no recognition that he recognized Yahweh as the God, but as a God, because Pharaoh worship was still around even then. Yeah, and more importantly, Pharaoh, you've raised yourself up as God. You ain't nothing compared to me, and you need to acknowledge me, and that I think that's a part of all the drama is recognizing to Pharaoh who's the boss, and it ain't you. To his people, that's right. Yeah. This Pharaoh that you're worshiping is misplaced, and I will show you. Where sacrifice to the Lord? 19. But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless compelled by a mighty hand. We hear that term, mighty hand. Sometimes it's mighty hand and an outstretched arm. God delivered his people with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Incidentally, I draw this parallel. Who else saved with mighty hand and outstretched arm? You know, what is the cross? Mighty hand and outstretched arm. The mighty hand. So I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all the wonders that I will do in it. After that, he will let you go. And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. And when you go, you shall not go empty. But each woman shall ask of her neighbor and any woman who lives in her house for silver and gold jewelry and for clothing. You shall put them on your sons and on your daughters. So you shall plunder the Egyptians. Anything? This is good stuff.
When they say, you shall ask your neighbors, I guess the Israelites were interspersed.
Yeah. I'd say, yeah. So you had some that would be working in domestic servitude. Not everyone was just out in the fields working. So, yeah. You shall plunder the Egyptians. In every aspect, no matter how bad things get, God is still blessing his people.
That kind of led to their problems later when they had enough gold to make a calf.
Well, yeah, that was a problem. Yeah. Yeah, maybe they shouldn't have taken as much gold. Anything else?
Mine says the Lord planned for the Egyptians to pay back for their years of hard labor.
Yeah, well, there is some recompense that is a part of this. Retribution. Yeah. How so? What do you mean? Yeah, this is the summary statement, right? This is like the overview of everything. He doesn't get into the nitty gritty yet. He's just saying, look, this is the way it's all going to play out. Pharaoh's not going to believe. There's going to be some problems. Ultimately, it will be the case that this is going to and yeah, the people are probably not considering all of the aspects that are going to come from this. What it's going to entail. And don't we do that too? We try to grab onto one of God's promises and stuff in the future, and we say, oh, well, everything's hunky-dory, and that means that everything's going to be a breeze from here to there. Well, that's not the promise. The promise is the destination. The journey might still be fraught with hardships. It will be, yeah. But the whole goal is, but don't worry, because this will be the end. They had to load it all over. That's right. Yeah, you have to put it. Yeah. Yeah, and I just the logistics of what this Exodus took is just mind blowing. You know, we talk about the logistics of taking all the family and stuff down to Egypt. During Jacob's time, that's nothing compared to what this is going to take. Okay, so Moses had already said, look, I don't think I'm your guy. But so God gives more of the promise, and Moses answered, behold, hey, they're not going to believe me or listen to my voice, for they will say, Yahweh did not appear to you. Yahweh said to him, yeah, and I'm interspersing God's sighs and frustrations here. What is that in your hand? He said, a staff. Throw it on the ground. He threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moses ran from it. Yahweh said to Moses, put out your hand, catch it by the tail. He put out his hand and caught it, and became a staff in his hand, that they may believe that Yahweh, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. Again, Yahweh said to him, put your hand inside your cloak. He put his hand inside his cloak, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous like snow. He said, put your hand back inside your cloak. So he put his hand back inside the cloak, and when he took it out, behold, it was restored to him like the rest of his flesh. They will not believe you, God said, or listen to the first sign. They may believe the latter sign. If they will not believe even these two signs or listen to your voice, you shall take some water from the Nile, pour it on the ground, and the water that you shall take from the Nile will become blood on the dry ground. So he's also given the foreshadowing of a couple of the plagues here too. Moses said to Yahweh, here comes excuse number 3 right here. O my Lord, I am not eloquent either in my past or since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of tongue. Yahweh said to him, who made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord, I, Yahweh? So I sense God's growing frustration and anger at these continual excuses. I said I was going to be with you. That should have been enough. And you keep coming back, and I'm Jen has this picture in her mind of God, so many times in dealing with of hitting his head against the wall in heaven, because of the stubbornness of us as people. It's like again and again. Yep. How is this going to happen? I don't want any part of it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's exactly the point. It is beyond his ability to handle it. Right. He said, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to take care of it. And this is another example. It's like, yeah, I know your speech impediment. I made you. This is not news to me. So if I say to go as my emissary, to go as my mouthpiece, you can trust that I'm going to take care of it. We want the details. Right. Mary? To switch that gear back? Yeah, I think it was more than that. I think it was more than that. Yeah. 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 But he says the ones seeking your life are dead. So at least he shouldn't have had that as a fear anymore. The one seeking your life. But, I guess it depends on what kind of snake it becomes.
They had some nasty specimens over there.
They did. Some, yeah.
So who is it that's not going to believe? I mean, this happened before he...
Well, what he's talking right now, he was talking specifically of the elders.
That's what I thought, the elders.
Yeah, so he's going to get a double whammy here, right? It's going to have a hard time for even Israel believing, and he's going to use that as an excuse. Look, a little bit later, he's going to say, my own people don't believe me, and you want me to go and try to convince Pharaoh?
I understand his feelings. I mean, I'm going to walk back in there and start talking to them like I'm going to lead them out of here, and they're going to say, you were raised in the house of Pharaoh. Who are you to start with?
Yeah.
Why should we believe you? And then after that, I got to go talk to Pharaoh, and that man had considerable resources.
Yeah. Moses is in a seemingly no-win situation there, which really gives the fact. Moses did have tremendous faith when it came down to it, and it's evident because he ended up doing what God said. All right, 12. Now, therefore, go, and I will be your mouth and teach you what you shall speak. And then comes the final one. Moses finally just breaks down. Look, God, you're not taking the hint. Please send someone else. At least he was polite about it. Right? And he said, please. Then the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Moses. And he said, is there not Aaron, your brother, the Levite? I know that he could speak well. Behold, he's coming out to meet you, and when he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. You shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth, and I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and will teach you both what to do. He shall speak for you to the people, and he shall be your mouth, and you shall be as God to him. And take in your hand this staff with which you shall do the signs. It's not the first time God's going to get frustrated with Moses and the people. Anything else? Yeah, we don't know if this is the first time Aaron is coming to visit or how. And this is the other thing. How does Aaron get out? You know, what was his job? You know, what was he under hard labor? How did he, you know, how did all that work? We don't know. We're not told any, we're not privy to any of that. Well, it is almost like God's giving magic tricks because that's exactly how the Egyptians respond. Through their dark arts, their magical arts, their occultish aspects that they do a lot of the same things, whether they're just parlor tricks or not. But of course, there's some of them they can't replicate.
Sorry?
There's some they can't replicate.
Yeah, I mean, you can almost explain what they did,
Right, yeah, teach a snake to be really still and, right.
but they couldn't pick their snakes up because they'd already been swallowed by Aaron.
Yeah, right. They've been swallowed by Moses as one, and of course, you know, the blood of the Nile and stuff. Yeah, there's some things they couldn't do, and more importantly, changing the Nile back from blood back to water. That's a pretty hefty filtration system.
So it seems like God could have made Moses speak well instead of giving that to Aaron after Moses.
Yeah, he could have made him speak well, but that wasn't necessary. Well, it wasn't even necessary because of Aaron. Before Aaron came along, God was going to take care of it.
It says that he's going to help both of them speak.
Yeah. Now, fine. I'll be with Aaron too. I'll use you both.
He's basically just giving him Aaron to give him a little bit more confidence. So he has somebody to help him.
He's giving him more confidence. But here's some of the curious thing is that Aaron is not always the best right-hand man for him. Right? Aaron's the cause of some pretty big problems. And in fact, some problems that are so big, you really wonder why God and Moses let him live. Not just in the aspect of the golden calf, but in kind of the little mini rebellion against Moses. And I mean, there are some things that are just going, really, Aaron? There's a consequence. Exactly. Yeah, a consequence for not trusting me in the first place. Yeah, I'll help you. I'll give you a little bit more, but there's a flip side. Yeah. All right. Why don't we go ahead and stop there, verse 18. Good stuff. All right. Anything else you want to bring up before we wrap up? You're glad you're not Moses.
I like that.
Amen to that. All right. Well, let's go with the benediction. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you with favor and give you his peace. Amen. Well, I hope that you all have a wonderful week, and God bless, and we'll see you next week.